What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of B is for Build. Today's going to be an interesting one. We have to figure out what paint is on the Evora. Last night when I left the shop, I grabbed the paint and I tested it on the bumper, and it looked like it was two different versions of white. I don't remember getting a new version of white. Did I change my mind? Anyways, we got to figure out what paint is on the Evora, and then we got to repair our bumper, and then we got to paint the Evora. That's what's in store. Stay tuned. So, here's our can of paint. Here's a body panel off the Evora. I'm off to the paint shop. I'm gonna go ask him some questions and try and figure out what the heck is going on. Driving the 370 today, by the way. Been driving it for the last few days. It's got air conditioning. It's been really hot out, so that's really nice, but I just love driving this car, man. This is such a good car. All right, we are set. We pulled the paint chip from the original can of paint that I brought in, and once it's all dried and cured up and stuff like that, it does match the panel. We used a paint light to match real life light with the color of the paint chip and the color of the panel, and they're right. So I actually did grab the right paint. It was weird. I'll show you when we get back to the shop. So that's it, we're set. I got all the other chemicals I need, all the like reducers and hardeners and stuff that I need. So let's hit the shop and we'll get that bumper ready to go. All right, back in the shop, and all the fiberglass we've added to the bumper has plenty of time to dry up, so this is looking good. Now we're gonna go ahead and hit this with a 100 grit and bring it all down flat to prepare it for our layers of body filler. That's our first layer of body filler. It went on pretty well. It got a little messy in here, and it got a little thick. Now keep in mind, you don't want to go too thick with body filler ever, but I like to put it on a little bit thicker and then sand a lot off. That way it's better than having not enough, and then you just have to put on and sand, put on, sand, put on, sand. So put on a little bit extra, sand a little bit extra off. So what I'll probably do is give this about 20, 25, 30 minutes to dry, and then I'll hit it with the sander again, and we'll see where we stand. All right, we let the body filler set up for like 25 minutes, then I came back and hit it with that 100 grit sandpaper, and it really rips through it, so you gotta be careful. But I mean, I don't know if we got lucky or maybe I'm just getting better at this stuff over the years, but we're getting a really good shape. We don't have any like drastic overlaps and big high spots or anything like that. Like, I'm really happy with how this thing is coming out. For the amount of damage that it had on the first go round of body filler, how we're starting to clean it up. Now, a professional, they might be able to just like sand through the first round of body filler and be done, but I definitely need to apply another round of body filler. So what I'm gonna be looking at to do in this round of body filler, clean up this top edge a little bit more, maybe give it a little bit more buildup actually, and come back in here. So actually just kind of build it up a little bit more, so when we come back through the next time, we can actually sand it down maybe for the last time. And then in here, there are some like pinholes and some stuff, and I missed that spot down there, as well as I forgot about this spot over here. So I'm coming back in, I'm gonna fill in two other spots, and then a little bit more on the bottom side, and then it's gonna be time to start then it's another round of sanding, and we'll see how it looks actually. All right, well that's drying up. I gotta go ahead and start sanding on this wing. We have to do a full repaint of this wing tomorrow, so that's all gotta be cleaned up and all this garbage paint's gotta be taken off. It's gonna be a ton of sanding. I should get to it. Damn, that's a total pain in the ass. It's been about an hour of sanding with 100 grit, and you would think that I would have been sanded right through this thing with that amount of time, but it's that paint like did not harden. The clear coat that you got on top of this stuff, it did not harden, and then it gummed up, and so it was basically, this whole thing was just covered with this gummy crappy like residue, that I had to, like, I mean, you can see how it just, instead of sanding off a nice little sand dust, it beat it up. Everything was just these beated up little dots. Somebody mentioned, like, why don't I try like chemical paint stripper? But I'm worried that how would it know when to stop going through the paint and not go into the fiberglass? That's my big worry there. So that's why I've been sanding it, but we got it down on this side, so obviously we got to do the whole back side as well, but that should be a little bit easier because it's not a concave surface. But yeah, so that was a lot of work, but I got to stay focused on the bumper if I want to get it sprayed tonight. We have all day tomorrow to work on that. So this is now dried up. I had to do, I did more buildup in the front right here, and now that that's all really close, I'm going to go ahead and block sand this out by hand rather than using the power sander because I don't want to burn through anything too fast. So I'll block sand it up by hand with some 100 grit, 150 maybe, and then we'll see where we land. Well, some bad news. That piece of carbon fiber on the bottom is not coming off anymore. That bolt right there is so stuck in there, it's never coming off. But in good news, it started to sand it up. Well, it sanded up really nicely by hand, and now it's at the point really where things are so many different colors and different textures and stuff like that. It's really hard for me to tell how even it is, how level it is, and everything else like that. And this point is when I apply some high filler primer to help give me a little bit better look at it. And when the primer is wet, you can bounce the light off of it and look for, divots and stuff like that. Now I can see plenty of pinholes and holes that need to be filled with some gel coat and stuff like that. But this will overall give me a better idea of the shape. So let's go ahead and hit it with the high fill primer. Overall, it's looking really good with this high coat primer on here. I was able to get some, kind of see it all glossed up, and I saw there's a high spot right here on this angle, like this right here. So I'm gonna bring this part down a little bit, and then there's obviously a few pits that we're gonna need to repair, and some like transfer spots right here, and a little divot right there. So I'll work on all of those, and then I'm gonna start hitting this with a little bit finer grit sandpaper as well to really truly get it prepared for paint. All right, it's looking great. It's ready for its final sanding, but I totally forgot. I am 100% following the steps provided by 3M, and one of the steps is to let the high fill primer dry overnight. That's why I was clogging up my sandpaper. High fill primer just takes a ton of time to dry. So I wanna do this right. I'm gonna be patient. So that's it for tonight. We will be back tomorrow and finish this thing up. All right, it's a new day, we're back, and the filler primer has dried up, but unfortunately it's still gunking up the sandpaper just because it's not good quality, which is a bummer. You want to definitely spend the extra money on filler primer. I had a little timing issue with not going to the automotive store when it was open, so I had to buy it from a different store. Anyways, and I saw a little low point right here, so I put a little bit of glazing putty on top of that, and now we're ready to go ahead and start the final sanding. So I'm just going to be sanding up this spot, making sure it looks like the way I want it to, but then also sanding up the rest of the white so that the paint will adhere to it. Okay, the bumper is ready to be painted. So we've scuffed up with some 400 grit all of the white paint, and we've taped everything off, all the carbon fiber bits that we don't want to paint, taken out the grills, and I sanded down the high fill primer. Now you could have probably saw on the camera that I was really struggling with that. I tried dry sanding, I tried wet sanding, I tried a lot of different grits of sandpaper, and nothing really worked. This high fill primer that I put on there is absolute garbage. It's the Rust-Oleum brand high fill primer, and it just is garbage. It says on the back of the can 2 to 4 hours to dry before it's like dried up hard and you can sand it and do everything. I gave this thing overnight in a warm booth with ventilation, and I came back the next day, and all it does is it's still tacky. It's gumming up my sandpaper. It's absolute garbage. Stuff is absolute garbage, so I would not recommend anybody using it. I need to get some for this guy, so I'm gonna go to the automotive store that was closed yesterday when I had to go get more of the stuff, and I'll try a different brand out and see if I can give you guys a good recommendation. Most of you painters already know this, but for you guys at home DIY guys, that's my pro tip. Rust-Oleum makes good spray paint. They do. Their paint that you spray out of the can, good. For primer, bad. So this thing's done. I'm gonna put that to the side, and we're gonna jump onto the black parts that we need to sand up. Things on the wing have been moving along interestingly. So I sanded the entire thing up and then hit it with some high filler primer, and basically any spot that I didn't sand 100% of the existing clear coat off of had this crazy reaction like what we're seeing here. The clear coat is actually somehow gummy again, and the primer just stood up on top of it and crackled out and stuff like that. So it's a lot better to have this happen now rather than when we're actually painting. On the bottom side, there's not too much to worry about. It's just around the joints in there. You can see those are the parts where I couldn't get in there. I mean, it takes a lot of sanding to get all that gummed up clear coat off. There's a little bit in the cracks right here too that I gotta work on. So, and some right there. So what I did was I went and got some paint stripper, and I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna hope it doesn't eat the fiberglass away. The guy at the body shop said that you can use it lightly on fiberglass. So I'm gonna try and use it lightly, and we'll see what happens. I gotta get all that crappy clear coat off. Luckily, it doesn't have much adhesion qualities anyways, so hopefully it'll just come right off. Hey, all right, we are almost ready to paint. I think it's adorable that the insurance company thinks the Datsun can be fixed in 36 hours. Meanwhile, I've been working on just these two pieces for 24 hours now, and I'm not even ready to paint. But let me catch you guys up. Good results on the paint stripper. I used an SEM brand chemical paint stripper on this part over here and that part up there, and then I just hit it with those that thing, one of those little guys, and like a body filler spreader. Took it all off, wiped it off with a rag, let it dry, started sanding it. Great results. Hit it with high filler primer after I was done sanding it. That whole piece is ready to go. I got the little vent cover things. Those are almost ready to go. I made a mistake on this one. I did not sand deep enough into this one. Now remember, I pulled these off of the car and they were vinyl wrapped, peeled the vinyl wrap off, then sanded all the clear coat garbage off of it. Did not get far enough in the crack on that one. The other one looks great. Also hit the wing ends. There's one there, one there. They're ready to go as well. So we're about ready to paint. Exciting times. It's 11 o'clock at night. I don't want to be here till 3 a.m. We have to wrap up the entire car tomorrow. So I need to clean up this whole entire paint booth. We need to get the dust out of here. We got to get the crap off the floor. So I'm going to clean the floor up, come in with a hose, spray the whole floor down, get all this dust and crap out of here, as well as wet the floor and prep everything for paint. Swamp booth engaged. We're ready to paint. Gonna mix up paint. This is a single stage white paint, as we reviewed in the beginning of the episode, which seemed like an eternity ago for me. It's supposedly the right paint, but I don't really feel too comfortable about it. By the way, if anybody wants to see what's left over from it, that's kind of what it looked like. Obviously, this will be clean before we paint it. That's what it looked like when I sprayed it on this bumper, but apparently once I mix it up with all the things, nah, that can't be it. That's the fiberglass underneath. or not. Who knows? Don't care. Time to spray paint. If I don't drive this car to San Francisco, it's because I somehow got bamboozled by the wrong color paint. But the paint shop promised me that it's the right paint. It's too late. I can't even think anymore. It's too late to go back now. Let's prepare the paint and spray it on the bumper. Okay, well this paint job was a weird one, but it worked in the end. Let's start off with reviewing the bodywork. So obviously this was the affected area and it came out looking great. Bouncing light off of things, you know, you can't tell that we did work in that area. So I'm very, very happy about that. Moving on to this area right here, I forgot that when I came in here and I started spraying, I forgot that single stage paint, which is what this is a little bit more liquidy. I think more viscous or less viscous. I can never remember. Anyways, it's thinner than the base coat clear coat that I spray. So I was spraying it on pretty fast, pretty hard, and I got some runs in the paint. Normally, that's like a close-up shop, let it dry, sand it out, start over tomorrow type of move. But if I do that, our San Francisco meat is toast and everything else is toast. And I thought, you know what? Like, let's try and save it because this paint is extremely cheap. It's very, very, very cheap single stage paint. So I figured, you know what? Give it a shot to save it. If I waste the paint, no problem. We're still in the same situation. What I did was I literally just took the run and I wiped it off of the paint. So I like wiped the paint away with a paper towel and I came in and I repainted over it, hoping that the self-leveling paint would kind of level out the you know, kind of taken away part that I took out. And then I came in and did it again, and I did it again. And what we got in the end, especially because we're using a white, and white is a very forgiving color, is, let me see if I can bounce the light off of it for you here. You can kind of see right about there, a little bit. So we got a little bit of waviness in the paint. It almost looks like the fiberglass underneath wasn't finished well enough. It's a little bit wavy in the area where I had a run. The run is gone though, and once we take this out into daylight, we put it on the car, no one will ever know. Also, you know, when I painted this whole car, I was very new to painting. I was using a $10 paint gun, you know, so it needless to say, it kind of just matches the rest of the car at this point. So not a perfect paint job. I'm always honest with you guys about the results. Not a perfect paint job, but a good one. And I remembered to peel the tape back off, so the carbon fiber is going to look a lot better this time when we're done. And I'm very, very happy with the results of this bumper. Very, very, very happy. Well, this is not car related at all, but I was going to go get some stuff out of the shop and I heard somebody like rustling around in the bushes behind the shop and try and like run away. So I confronted them and they didn't respond, and it sounded like they stayed in my backyard. So I just had to call 911. So they're gonna send a cop out so we can go like kind of scan the area. It's just like with my luck these days, like I'm not risking anything right now. So I'm waiting for the cops to show up. It's 2:55 in the morning right now, so like I knew it was going to be a long night, but this is making it a little bit longer, but I'll feel better once police arrive and we can just make sure that like the property's clear and I can get back to work. All right, well that was a weird break in the night, but the cops came out, we did a perimeter check, and there's nobody here anymore, so whoever that was weird, but they're gone now. I really just want to finish up work. It's 3 a.m. now. I just want to get this done so I can get out of here. So I'm going to set up the black pieces. And then we'll spray our base coat. The paint went on well. I'm not exactly sure how well. We'll have to see when the clear coat levels out, and I will show you guys that tomorrow. It's 4:30 a.m. Sun comes up in 1 hour. cliffhanger. Tune in tomorrow, see how the paint turns out. Peace!